Hello board game brothers and sisters, I'm Adam Singer and welcome to another episode where I will let you know of all the board games launching on Kickstarter and GameFound over the next week. If you're new to the channel, we do this every week going over all the upcoming campaigns, and there haven't been too many campaigns over the past couple months here, but we are starting to pick up again and we do have a few games to cover now. But I don't want to oversell it here because this still is a really light week, but things will pick up in the next couple weeks, so if you want to see more, make sure to subscribe down below. And if you want a bit of an earlier peek of the games to come, definitely go ahead and check out Board Game Co's channel because he puts out a video at the start of each month going over the month and letting you know of all the games that we know about so far that are going to be launching during that month. Of course, these dates are always changing. There's new things being added and removed from the list, so that's why I'm here doing this every week. But Alex's videos are a great place to get more information and check out which games are expected for that month at the time that he films them. He also offers a ton of other videos such as reviews or just conversations, or even going into whether or not he thinks certain campaigns are worth backing for the different pledge levels that they offer. He's also a lot of fun, and we do work together a little bit, keeping each other up to date with the games that we know about that are going to be launching soon, so that both his videos and my videos are as up to date as possible. But one more thing before we get into the games for this week, because there is a little bit more info that has been provided for Marvel United Multiverse, and a lot of you are probably wondering what is this game and how does it fit into the other Marvel United content, and they still haven't really answered those questions, but they did tell us a little bit of what's new with this game and that they're going to be introducing something called item cards. And the reason that they're including these into the game is to make each character feel more like the character they're supposed to be. So if you are Captain Carter, you'll be able to use her shield, or if you're Spider-Man, you'll be able to use his web slinger. And this is just a card that you'll be able to find throughout the game or start with at the beginning of the game depending on your character, and then you'll be able to use it at any time and then just flip it over once it's been used. But using these cards does make the game a little bit easier, so it's recommended that you play the game on hard mode where you're removing the double wild card from each of the players' decks. And I think that's a great addition to the game because I think these specific item cards are a lot more fun and exciting and thematic than the double wild card, so removing that and replacing it with this seems like a pretty nice trade-off. The other thing they mention is that they're going to be adding a way to play solo mode with just a single character, so you're not going to have to manage a whole bunch of different characters, but there will be a support deck where other characters might make an appearance and help you out. Definitely some awesome changes here, and I'm always happy to see publishers taking their players' feedback and integrating it in a game in the way that makes sense. But I don't really have much else for this intro, so let's check out the campaigns. And the first campaign we have launches on January 9th, and this one's called Among Cultists. And this plays 4 to 8 players and takes about 45 to 90 minutes to play. And this is a social deduction game where players are going to be assigned roles in secret at the start of the game. And the different roles could be an investigator where you're trying to eliminate the cultists, or you could be a cultist where you're trying to eliminate the investigator. But if you're the cultist, you can also try to identify who the seer is. And if you're able to do that, that's an alternative way to win the game. But there's only ever one seer player in the game, and that player is going to know all information. They're going to know exactly who are the investigators and who are the cultists. But a neat aspect of this game that you don't see in a lot of other social deduction games is that it does actually have a board, and players will be moving around on the board, interacting with it and interacting with the players that they run into. Because on your turn, you're going to have 3 movement points to move about the board, but you can only end your movement on certain rooms depending on the route card that was dealt to you at the start of the game. Each player's route card will show icons for the rooms that you're allowed to move into on your turn, and it's going to list these icons for each of the rounds that occur in the game. But the catch here is that the cultists are actually allowed to ignore this card and move into any of the rooms that they'd like. And if a player ends their turn in a room where another player is already located, then you're going to be able to trade cards with that player, and you'll be able to give them either an alive card or a dead card. And I'll come back to the purpose of these cards in a second here, but after you've had your movement and performed an encounter, if you're in a room with another player, then you're going to be drawing a random event card from the event deck and playing it out depending on what it says. And these events can do different things like reveal secret passageways for the players to utilize, or they can even cut power to the building, which can affect the way certain actions unfold. And then you're going to move into your character or room action. You can only choose to do one of these. If there's a character in the same room as you, then you can check the cards in their hand, and if they do have a dead card, then that player is considered dead for the rest of the game. They're not eliminated from the game, but they do turn into a ghost which has limited actions. But the cultists know who the other cultists are, and if they look into another cultist deck and they do see a dead card, they can choose to ignore it and lie, and then that will allow that other player to remain alive. But if you stop on a room with no other player, or if you decide to do a room action instead, then you're going to have a few different choices here. You can either explore the room by drawing its card and resolving it, or you can perform specific room actions which will allow you to modify the decks of certain rooms, restore power to the building, or even trigger a vote to assassinate a specific player. There's also some other rooms with some different actions and effects, but after the player has performed their actions, then you move on to the cleanup phase, where the round resets and the players get to take their turns again. And the game continues like this until either the cultists or the investigators are eliminated, and then whichever one is left wins the game. And if you're interested in this or any other campaigns I mentioned in this video, I have links in the description below. And launching on January 10th, we have Hero Realms Dungeons, and this is an expansion for the game Hero Realms, which plays 2 to 4 players and takes about 20 to 30 minutes to play. And if you're not familiar with this game, this is a deck building game. And in this game, you're going to be starting out with your starter cards, and on your turn, you're allowed to take as many actions as you're able. And you'll be using those actions to play cards from your hand in order to gain gold or attack power, or perform special effects, or even draw more cards into your hand. You'll be able to spend any of your gold in order to buy new cards from the shared market. These are going to go immediately into your discard pile, and since this is a deck building game, that will eventually get shuffled up and then reused as your draw pile when you go to draw new cards into your hand. Any attack power that you're able to draw, you'll be able to spend in order to inflict damage on any of your opponents. But then at the end of your turn, you're going to be discarding any cards that are unplayed and left in your hand, as well as any action or item cards that you played out on the table. This means that some other cards, like your champion cards, will actually remain in play and be able to be used on future turns until they are discarded for other reasons. This new expansion is going to be adding 6 new character classes, including an alchemist, a barbarian, a bard, a druid, a monk, and a Kickstarter exclusive necromancer. There's also going to be specific adventure packs with the skill and ability tree cards for each of these characters to fully incorporate them into the game. There's also a brand new 80 card market deck for PvP and cooperative play, and you can choose to use this market deck on its own or to integrate it with your previous content. But this expansion is also going to bring in a brand new game board, as well as a all new 12 encounter dungeon campaign for 1 to 5 players. And if you're interested in this one, I don't have the link to the campaign page yet, but you can go ahead and sign up for updates on their website, and they'll send you an email as soon as that's available. And launching on the 10th, we have OrcQuest WarPath, and this plays 1 to 6 players. It takes about 45 to 90 minutes to play, and this one does have some really interesting history because this campaign is actually going to be called OrcQuest WarPath Resurrection, because this game was already funded in a previous campaign, but there were financial issues and they weren't able to fully produce it. And these things do happen for a variety of reasons, but something that I really liked to see here is that this team didn't give up, and instead they looked for other publishers that were able to pick up from where they left off, and they did find a publisher, and it's one that you might have heard of before that does a really great job with minis and have created a lot of successful campaigns in the past. So I think if this one does fund, we're not going to be seeing those same issues again, because the publisher that took this one over is Monolith. And there is a whole bunch of Q&A here on this page. You can pause the video if you want to read any of it, but they're taking a certain strategic approach and making a few different changes to make the costs more viable. And if they're able to hit their target, then both the new and the previous pledges will be fulfilled. So if this game does end up looking interesting to you, then this is a really great project to support, because you're going to be helping all those previous backers potentially get their game. But now let's get into a little bit about how the game plays, and this is a scenario-based cooperative game where players are going to be working together to fight back against the pesky humans who are expanding onto your land. Players are going to be playing as orcs, where they're trying to find and eliminate that source of evil that is threatening your race. On a turn, players are going to be using action points in order to move and attack the other characters out on the board, and attacking is resolved using dice rolling. When entering a new room, you're going to be rolling dice on a grid system in order to determine the number and location of the enemies within that room, and then players can also use stealth to eliminate the enemies before they see you. Players will be gaining XP, which they can spend for different cards or to modify their dice rolls, and after you've performed your turn, you're going to be drawing an event card and resolving its effects. But players will win scenarios by fighting final bosses or saving allies, but the players will also have to manage their alert level that goes up and up the more that they're detected, and if that ever reaches the maximum amount, then all the humans are alerted and the players lose the game. Of course, the campaign will lead up to an epic final boss battle, and if the players are able to win that, then they win the entire campaign. And if you want to know more, or if you want to see different ways that you can help them reach their funding goal, I'll leave a link to the campaign in the description below. And the last campaign we have launches on the 10th, and this one's called The Last Doge. And this plays 2 to 5 players and takes about 30 to 45 minutes to play. And this is a competitive game that uses mechanisms like exploration, hand management, as well as a bit of memory. The game takes place in a post-apocalyptic Italy where the world has advanced and then regressed back into the medieval ages. And the way that this game works is that you're going to be setting up a main board by putting a whole bunch of tiles out face down. And players will be able to look at 2 tiles, choosing one to move their miniature to, and then choosing the other to reveal to all players. And each of these cards are going to have a number on them representing which district they're a part of. There's 7 cards for District 7, 6 cards for District 6, 5 for District 5, and so on and so forth. And you'll also want to remember which district is where because it might be useful for later parts in the game. But the cards can also have an icon on it that will have an effect anytime that that card is revealed to all the players. So for the card that you chose to reveal, if it had an icon on it, then you're going to be resolving its effect. And players can also deal damage or perform other actions by playing any of the action cards that they have in their hand. And when a player does take damage, they're actually going to have to discard these cards for each tick of damage that they take. Well, the player who inflicted the damage is going to be earning victory points. And another really important way to earn victory points is located at the center of the board because that center tile is always going to have the treasure card put on it. And if a player is able to guess which district is underneath that card, then they're going to be earning the victory points from acquiring that treasure. And this is one of the reasons why it's so important to always try to remember all the information that you have for all of the cards, whether or not they're revealed or hidden. But if that card's guessed, or if all the players fail at trying to guess that card because you only get one chance each, then all the tiles are flipped back to their hidden side, and then each player has to find their way out of the city by moving through all the district numbers. And for the players that were able to do this, they're going to be earning victory points for finding the treasure, gaining artifacts through the use of those action cards, dealing damage to the other players, as well as any cards they have left at the end of the game. And the player with the most victory points wins the game. And it's normally at this point in the video where I announce a few different giveaways, but I don't have any games for giveaway just yet. Since we had that huge lull in the month of December, there hasn't been any games donated for giveaway by the publishers yet, but the weeks are starting to ramp up, and I already have 6 games launching next week, and I'm sure there's going to be even more by the time I make next week's video. So I'll be reaching out to all these publishers and seeing if they want to donate a pledge for giveaway for all the efforts that I put in here. And of course, I'll just go ahead and give those away on the channel as a way to show my appreciation and to keep you guys coming back, because who doesn't want free stuff? But for now, this is all I have for you this week. So as always, thanks so much for watching, and until next time, keep that shelf cluttered and the table full.